Today on the Big Dog Holler Barbecue channel, we're making some smoked Italian beef sandwiches. So stay tuned and find out how we made them. Welcome to the Holler, everybody. To get this smoked Italian beef started, the star of the show that we have here is roughly a 3-pound chuck roast, Angus chuck roast from Meyer, as well as our other ingredients off to the side here. But the star of the show is this chuck roast. We're going to go ahead and get this cracked open, get some of the fat trimmed off, and we'll be right back. So for an Italian beef, we're not looking for a super fatty piece of meat. I do like the marbling that's on this chuck roast, but I am going to try to take off some of that fat on the outside here. So just trim that up real nice. You could use a top round. You could really use any leaner cut of beef for an Italian beef. Let's get that sliced off there as well. Might flip that over and take a better look at it. There we go. Move that to the side. Get that sliced there. Doesn't need to be any special shape or anything like that. And then we're also going to take off this hard piece of fat in the middle here. As you can see, we're going to be cutting off a decent bit of meat, but we'll put that on the side and use it in something else later, maybe some ground beef. As you can see, there's a decent bit of meat left in that section there, but we're going to call that just about good enough. This probably takes it down to 2.5 pounds, 2.5 pound chuck roast here. And next we're going to get it all seasoned. All right, so now that everything's nice and trimmed up, we're going to start with our seasoning. Keeping things real simple, we're starting with a coarse black pepper that we picked up from our local Rural King. We're going to go all over the top here, nice and even. Get that flipped over, get the other side. As you can see, it's a beautifully marbled piece of meat from Meyer here. And we're going to try to get all the edges crusted as well. This is going to help build our bark on this chuck roast and capture even more of that smoke flavor. And then the only other seasoning that we're going to use on the meat itself is some Redmond sea salt. Going to get that applied nice and liberally to the outside here. As you can see, it's a pretty fine grind on this sea salt. We're going to do the exact same thing. Flip it over, get it applied to the outside. You don't have to be shy when you're seasoning a nice thick cut of beef like this. Most of our seasoning and most of our flavor outside of the smoke that's going to get on the outside of this chuck roast is going to come from the jus that we will be making here in just a moment. All right, so now that the meat is nice and seasoned here, we're going to set this off to the side to let that rest and the juices get pulled out. What we have here is just the inside part of our crock pot. So we're going to go ahead and start making our jus. The base for it is going to be some True Goodness beef broth from Meyer as well. We're just going to dump this entire into this here as it fills to the top. This is 4 cups of beef broth. I believe every container like this is going to be 4 cups, so you certainly don't have to use the Meyer brand, but it is one of our favorites there. So that is the entire container. Next, we're going to add some Good Seasons, Zesty Italian seasoning into our mixture. Get that opened up. Might need a second rip on that. Over the top, we'll get this all mixed in just a moment. And then to that, we're going to add some Mount Olive sliced pepperoncinis as well. All of the pepperoncinis as well as the juice that's inside. We may need a fork to get that out as well. There we go. Okay, well, let's go grab something to mix this up with. All right, so now that we have our jus nice and mixed up here, the game plan is going to be, we have our Weber Smokey Mountain heating up. We are using the 22-inch model. It has the 2 racks, so we're going to place this on the lower rack and then the chuck roast on the top rack above that. And if you'll come back over to the jus for just a second, what that'll do is all the juices that come out of the meat will drip directly into our crock pot mixture here and add even more flavor, as well as it'll incorporate a nice smokiness to the jus there as well. We currently have the Weber Smokey Mountain cranking up to 250 degrees. To track that temperature, we are going to be using our Chef IQ Bluetooth digital thermometer here to best track the temperature. As we know, the Weber Smokey Mountain gauge on top isn't always the most accurate, but once it gets cranked up or once it's very close, we'll meet you out at the smoker. Alright, so we're out here at the Weber Smokey Mountain. As you can see, at least on the Weber gauge, it is cranking up to 250. We're going to go ahead and get this chuck roast thrown on. If you take a peek inside, you can see our container with the jus. And we're going to go ahead and get this chuck roast placed right over the top there so that everything drips inside. We have our Chef IQ in the thickest part of the meat itself. We're aiming for roughly 185 internal, and then we'll finish it off in the jus itself, cook it up to just over 200 degrees. But we have that tucked in. Going to take roughly 3 to 4 hours to reach 185 internal. What we're using to smoke is our Bear Mountain Barbecue Woods hickory logs, as well as the Good Charcoal brand lump charcoal. If you take a peek at the charcoal itself, a lot of it is real thin. It burns really hot, which is nice and would probably be great for searing, but it is smaller pieces of charcoal. We actually picked this up at our local Aldi's for $7 a bag and thought we'd give it a shot, but we'll meet you back out here in a few. So after roughly 3 hours cruising right along at 250, let's take a look at our chuck roast here. Whoops. As you can see, we have a great color forming on the outside of the meat, probing right around 180 degrees. So what we're going to do, we're going to get this top rack pulled off, dump some of those juices into the jus, grab that, and we're going to throw that underneath. And as you can see, it's almost fully submerged in the jus, and we're going to let it ride for another hour or so. So after another hour in the Weber Smokey Mountain here, great color on the chuck roast itself, and it's probing like butter. So we're going to get this brought back inside, let it rest for roughly 30 minutes, and we'll get to shredding. So after 15 to 30 minutes, we got our chuck roast fully shredded up here. As you can see on some of these pieces, we have a great smoke ring that the chuck roast was able to take on. So that's the difference between just doing this in a crock pot and doing it on your smoker of choices. It adds a depth of flavor. I snuck a bite off camera. It has a great bite spiciness from the pepper as well, and that smoke really comes through. So now's the fun part. We get to make a sandwich. So to get this sandwich started, we have ourselves a 6-inch sub roll from Meyer. We're going to grab some of our chuck roast here along with some of the pepperoncinis that are in this mixture. Get that as full as you want it. We're going to come over here and grab some Alpino giardiniera relish as well. Get that nice and even over the top here. I'm going to switch hands real quick and add some of our Jungle Jim's Italian seasoning as well to the top, just for a little extra kick of flavor. And then from here, you have a couple options. You can either eat it dry like this, or with whatever jus is left, you can add some extra to the outside of the sandwich there and have a nice wet bread along with your Italian beef sandwich. But there you have it, a smoked Italian beef sandwich, Big Dog Holler style, cooked on the Weber Smokey Mountain. Whoever eats the most gets the most, so dig in.